Hey, hi everyone. My name is Pavan, and if you've seen my previous videos, you would by now know that I'm trying to record videos for questions which I think could get asked during your front-end during interviews, especially for folks who are applying for front-end roles. The one that I'm going to cover today is a question that I would personally not ask, but I've seen that being asked in few companies. So let's go ahead with implementing it and seeing what would be the approach for it. So the question is to implement math.square root. Um, so before we get started with implementation, I think it's one very important thing is to get all the requirements clarified before you start coding. So as you can see in this question, the requirements do state that you have to handle edge cases for input. The edge cases could be not a number or it could be a negative number. So please ask this question before on what is the input that the function would expect and what all validations you need to add for it. The second thing is that the solution that this question might have could be precise or could be approximate. The approach that I'm going to take is going to be the approximate solution. So ask the interviewer if they're looking for a solution with a precise number or whether an approximate number would do. Most likely they're going to say an approximate number should do, because at the end of the day, you're being tested for your logical thinking, uh, ability to handle pressure, and also your coding skills. Cool. So let's get started with implementing this. The approach that I'm going to take is going to be the binary search operation, where you try splitting the range. So you decide what the range is with the start and the end, and then you get the mid of it, and then you see if your mid is satisfying the condition. Uh, if it's satisfying, that's the solution. If it's not, then you try decreasing the range by assigning the start as the mid plus one or the end as the mid minus one, so that you keep reducing the range every time and keep trying it to get to the solution at the end. So in this case, let's start with what the start is going to be. The start is going to be 0. Now, what's going to be the end? Now, the end could be x, but one thing to note that for a square root, the value is always going to be lesser than or equal to half of the value of x. It can never be greater than half of the value of the x. So we could optimize this by using math.floor and using the end as x by 2 plus 1. You could have done x by 2, but then there are some edge cases where you wouldn't satisfy it. So it's important. It's better to use x by 2 plus 1 for getting the end. Now we run a while loop, which goes on till start is either equal to end or is greater if the start is greater than end, and the while loop will keep running. We will assign different values to start and end depending on the condition. So let's get the mid. The mid is going to be math.floor start plus end divided by 2. Now, what are we trying to get to with this solution? So we are going to first find out what is going to be the power in this case, because we are trying to get the square root. So the power is going to be mid into mid, right? Now what we are going to try doing is that if the power is greater than x, that means that we have to change our end to be equal to mid minus 1, because we're going to decrease the range. Now we're going to look only from the start till the end, where the end is equals to mid minus 1, because the power is greater than x, which means that the answer is going to be lying on the other side, which is between start and mid minus 1. Now, if the power is greater than x, sorry, is less than x, then the range will change. And what we are going to do is we are going to update the start to be mid plus 1, because the value that we are seeking is now between the mid plus 1 and the end. Now, if neither of the conditions have been met, which means that we have got a solution, we are going to return the mid. And Now, if none of this satisfies, then we are going to return end, which is going to be the upper bound, because in this case, um, we just want to get the highest value, which could just be half, or depending on how the while loop is running. Now, the other important thing, as I'd mentioned, is handling some of the edge cases. So one of the input you had was nan. So if is nan or x is less than 0, you're going to return nan, which was the expectation of the question. That's why it's important to get those clarified. Uh, let's go to the code again. We're going to take the start, uh, assign the start as 0. The end is going to be math.floor x by 2, which is half plus 1. We're going to run a while loop, which runs uh, all the while till start is less than or equal to end. We're going to get the mid. We're going to use the mid to try getting the power, and we're going to check if the power is either greater than x or less than x, or is equal to x. Now, if it's greater, we're going to assign the end as mid minus 1, decreasing our range by half. And then we're going to assign start equals to mid plus 1 if power is less than x. If not, we are going to return end. Now let's submit this and see what happens. Cool. So this was square root. Um, Again, important thing, please do ask questions before starting coding. And as I said, this is an approximate solution, which should satisfy the needs of the interview. If somebody says that you need to do a precise solution, then the implementation is going to be a little more different and a little more time taking. Cool. Thanks, folks. I'll keep recording more videos. Thanks for watching these.